The Nigerian Ports Authority is working on a fully digital ecosystem to be operational by 2025. In a statement by the acting managing director of the NPA, Mohammed Bello Koko, the adoption by the NPA of a phased ICT development is to achieve a fully integrated port operating system. Joining us to discuss further is Michael Ogunremi, macroeconomist, fixed income analyst with Chapel Hill Denham. Michael, good morning to you. Good to see you again. Thank you so much for joining us. Can Nigeria's ports be fully digitized by 2025? What do you think?
It's possible. It's possible to achieve, the level of digitization that they are prospecting to get by 2025, But I just think there's just about, one key element, which is to involve the private sector. I'm a big fan of bringing in the private sector whenever it comes to achieving things at a rapid pace, And if you look at it, you don't necessarily have to teach most of the stakeholders in the port how to use some of these digital services. A lot of them are quite, tech savvy, and those who are not, there are things that they can easily pick up on. But I think the main issue is in terms of the implementation, and that is where I think that the private sector needs to, lead the front end.
Well, what about private sector? Point well made. Totally agree with you. What about the human element? There was the Eto app, which is the call-up app. That didn't work out very well for the ports. So how do you address that? How do you address the human factor?
Well, I think that, it's all about the top act, getting the top act right. And by top act, I mean at the leadership level, right? So when it comes to implementing regulations, the moment the leadership gets it right, I think that every subordinate, and any other stakeholder that feeds off the leadership would definitely align. So I think the problem we had with the e-call-up system is just the fact that probably the heart of the leadership was not, completely into it, and you had some people, at the leadership level that wanted, to, point out or bring out some loopholes in it, which is why it didn't work. But this time, if they're able to get the top acts right, I think it would work.
What are the benefits of a seamless technology driven, effortless, corruption-free ports for trade in Nigeria?
I would say it's obvious. That's the answer. It's obvious. Trade is central to any country that wants to grow. You don't see any big economy without a very strong, port, right? And as far as, Nigeria is concerned, we need to grow. And, most of that we can get from exports. For the last 2 years, Nigeria has recorded, trade deficits, partly because of the fact that we had COVID. But the truth is, even before we had COVID, exports were struggling, right? So if we're able to, put, some of all these bottlenecks, that you just cited, if we're able to put it behind us, I think it's good for the economy.
Nigeria's ports, never-ending discussion. The World Bank is, look, the World Bank, I have to say, they've been on it. Their Nigerian development updates, just subsidies. All right, taxes. They want Nigeria to tax soft drinks, cigarettes, and other stuff. What do you think? Sensible? We all like our soft drinks. So
yes, honestly, it's very dicey. It's very, very dicey. But what I like to say is this, or this is the view I like to take, about it. What kind of product are soft drinks, Nigerians? I think it's an inelastic demand product.
Okay.
And by that I'm saying that the fraction that we spend on soft drinks, relative to our monthly income, is low. Honestly speaking, it is quite low. So if you tax soft drinks, I don't think it's going to change anything. It wouldn't stop an average Nigerian from taking soft drinks when he has just come back, from a hot sun, and he sees a cold one that he can easily get.
Sorry, do you want to continue?
Yeah. So points being that, I don't really think it's completely going to cut down, sugar intake.
Gotcha. But on the fiscal side, can we afford to, or maybe social welfare, if I should address it that way, can we afford to increase taxes now with where the economy is on the recovery trajectory? Is this, how would the average man react to that type, or woman, Nigerian react to that type?
Well, the average man will not. I'll say maybe it depends on the margin of the increase. right? But again, if you're increasing, I mean, a bottle of pet coke is currently around 150 naira, thereabouts, right? If you increase it to 200, 250, I don't expect to see protests on the streets.
Okay.
Practically, I mean, I don't expect to see protests on the streets, right?
Yeah.
And you mean if you're increasing by 100, that's over 70% increase, right? So the point is, I don't see any reason why. In fact, I feel like taxing sugar products, I mean, it's long overdue if it is just for the purpose of raising revenue, because it's really not going to affect anything. I don't expect people to react to it. I don't expect that people would drastically cut their consumption of sugar products and all other associated products.
On the side of raising revenue, it's been said that, I think even Akinwumi Adesina, president of the African Development Bank, said that you shouldn't be raising taxes now, and that closing loopholes, a lot of people have said close loopholes, that should increase revenue for Nigeria. What do you think? Is it be better at tax collection, tax the informal sector, rather than looking at taxing sugar drinks and all these other things in order to improve healthcare and raise revenues? How do you see that?
I agree with them. But again, I'm saying, so my point will be that even if you want to raise tax, on what products, right? For sugar products, alcohol, products that have a very inelastic demand, I don't see any reason why you shouldn't. You actually, I mean, to be very honest, Nigeria needs the money.
Right,
we actually do need the money.
Yeah.
So I mean, for me, I don't see any reason why you shouldn't implement the tax right now. Can people afford it? Of course, people can afford to pay 200 naira to get a bottle of Coke. I don't think anybody would complain about paying 200 to get a bottle of Coke. Understand? So my point, but the point then becomes, where the issue would lie would be in terms of if the margin of increase is too much. That is where you're going to get a lot of complaints from people.
Yeah.
But as long as it is within a reasonable, limits that people can afford to still buy, I don't think it's going to generate any issue. And the point again will be to say that beyond, just closing the loopholes, I believe that raising the tax base is more important.
So that's the pool where you're collecting your taxes from, right?
Exactly.
Right.
I think that's where the emphasis needs to be laid on.
Okay.
Let's increase the tax base, and which is one of the reasons why the World Bank is saying, look, add alcohol, add sugar products to this tax base,
and cigarettes.
Yeah. So it's just basically aligned.
Still on the World Bank, but to Angola, what do you make of this $250 million education financing deal? The World Bank is everywhere that they've signed.
The World Bank is everywhere.
Yeah.
It's their job, right? It is their job. They have to talk.
Yeah.
But for Angola, I think the reason why the World Bank, is coming out to do this at this time is because they've noticed a trend of early marriage, among the girl child in Angola.
Yeah.
But the issue I have with it is this. It's difficult to just solve a cultural problem.
With money?
With money.
Well, some people think money solves everything.
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Because the issue of early marriage, and it's not even just an Angola thing. It obtains in Nigeria, it obtains in most countries in Africa, right? The issue lies in how do you orientate those people to understand that there is a better age for a girl to get married. So even if you want to put money, you should put the money to orienting, the people of the societies to say, we don't think early marriage is appropriate.
Right.
But if you just go out with the front, let's just build more schools, let's just put more people to school, it still doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. A parent can decide to still give their child out, at a very, young age.
Right.
So I feel like the issue should be addressing the cultural orientation and not just, building the schools.
Is education, I mean, just still on, education and healthcare, are those two of the continent's biggest projects as far as funding and development are required, plus long-term impacts on, what do you think?
I understand where you're coming from, honestly. I'll say from a social perspective, yes. But honestly, from an economic perspective, I still believe tech is the thing.
Tech, yeah?
Yeah, I still believe tech is the thing. In terms of long-term impact, yes. Education, yes. Health, I don't doubt that. But I still don't rule out tech as well.
With what the World Bank is doing here, right? Nigeria also needs help with education development. And I understand as far as the girl child angle and the orientation, but when you look at the level of funding, we're not, African nations are not at the threshold that the United Nations has. I think they say it's supposed to be about 20% of your budget or so. Yeah. So do we still need this sort of assistance going forward? Are we hopefully going to hear the World Bank? I think the World Bank gave 150 million to Nigeria prior to this. So do we still need these multilateral organizations to continue to assist funding education on the...
Africa will always need money.
It's always, yes. It's not going to end.
Africa will always need money. But the thing is this. Beyond collecting this money, what do you do with it?
You just prompted, and go ahead, finish your point, because you just prompted another question.
So, I mean, yes, it's enough for World Bank to give you 150 million, 200 million, you understand? But 3 years, 4 years down the line, the director looks back and say, okay, what exactly have you achieved with this money?
You've preempted my next question. If we go back and look at, if we use technology and use the amount of funding that has come into the African continent for tech startups and so on, can you indirectly say that we're a more educated populace because we're more advanced in the tools and technology we're using that's bringing money into the continent? Basically, the money has been flowing into education. Can we say that we've seen some sort of difference or improvements? Or betterment?
For that, you want to look at statistics like out of how many children are out of school.
Right.
Have we improved? What's the level of literacy rate? Have we improved? I think it's just very paltry improvements, very small.
So does that mean that we need that? So does that mean this $250 million now? It should be $1 billion or 1.5 billion. The money needs to be a lot more.
To be very honest, it isn't even really about the size of the money.
Yeah.
It is about what are we using it to do. So a lot of these funds come. When it comes, sometimes it doesn't meet a concrete plan on ground. Sometimes it meets a concrete plan on ground, but the plan is not implemented. And then the money just goes in different areas. And at the end of the day, you're asking yourself, what exactly is the impact of this?
Less 30 seconds to go. We have an election coming up, possibly a new administration, could be with the ruling party or with the opposition party. Yeah. Does that cause, as far as where the direction of education funding and so on, is continuity necessary for us to make more strides or more improvements?
Absolutely, absolutely. It is important that any current existing policy that we have in education and health must be sustained, and that is actually also one of the major issues we're having, because when a new government comes on board, they want to launch a new educational plan, they want to launch a new health plan, and then they just dump the old one. And what you have is policy discontinuity, which set us back to where we're coming from all over again. So there has to be that continuity, definitely.
Fascinating times. We'll see how it goes. Michael Ogunremi, fixed income analyst, macroeconomist with Chapel Hill Denham. Thank you so much for joining us.